All right, good. Finally got this setting so it broadcasts in 1080p. Crazy, crazy, crazy. All right. So, welcome back to the stream, or welcome to the stream. I'm here. My cat Zuzu's here. She's here giving me moral support while I try and stream. I tried streaming earlier and found out for some reason it wasn't logging into Twitch, so I spent almost 3 hours streaming and it didn't say send the audio or the video. So I'm just gonna have to start over, which is all right. I was doing some interesting stuff talking about sorry, I'm just looking at some settings here. I'm trying to figure out what my bit rate is on the stream. Okay, so it is doing source. All right. Okay, so it is. Anyway. So, I was not live. And I was doing a lot of stuff with... my mic holder is in need of adjustment. All right. I was talking about some stuff about a little gadget series, or not series, product idea, something called Mesh-tastic. And if you are a communications person, no, that's not what I wanted. That's not what I wanted either. So, Mesh-tastic is, and I'll go over this again. Basically, it is a series of devices that are using a standard called LoRa, L-O-R-A, which stands for long range. And the cool thing about the Mesh-tastic system, and there's a bunch of different vendors that make hardware for it, so it's not like one hardware vendor. But the really cool thing is you can set up a Mesh-tastic client node. Excuse me, I'm trying to yawn. Mesh-tastic client node, and they operate as a decentralized mesh network. So, you know, as new units come in, they can transmit and receive information from each other, and they pick the best path to get a message from one end to the other. And it doesn't require cell phone. Anybody can get one because it uses a frequency range that does not require a license. It is in the 900 megahertz band, and it's a very clever system, and there's a lot of support for it, and a lot of people are really excited about it. People use them to track, say, like balloons. If there's to track telemetry from a balloon, say you do a high altitude balloon, then it can broadcast, its GPS coordinates and altitude and heading and all that kind of stuff. And if there's enough people around on the ground, they can relay all that information either just through the airwaves, like I said, on the 900 megahertz band, which has probably about a 2 to 3 mile broadcast radius. Obviously that's on flat terrain, rocky, hilly, or tree lined. That may get interrupted a bit, and it may be not quite as steady at that distance. But anyway, so it's used to relay information, and you can set it up so that you can send text messages to people. You can create a group and have your own little group chat, if you will, your own channel, and you can send messages back and forth to each other. And the cool thing is that even if a device isn't participating in your group chat, it will still relay the data if it's set up to do that. There's some settings for that, but by default, they're set up to do all. Oh, excuse me, having a yawn attack. Anyway, so it's a pretty useful device or set of devices. They can come with little screens, and you can look at information on them, like messages or headings or bearing towards another node. So like you can say, hey, what direction is this node from me? And it'll give you like a little arrow and show you, oh, hey, the node's that direction. As long as you both have GPS on and are transmitting your coordinates and stuff. Anyway, so the website is meshtastic.org. Here, I'll put that in chat. Share it with everybody. Anyway, so there it is in chat. Anyway, that's how that's where you get all the general information. Is the documentations there is really well done. It goes through every step. It's got all the settings. It tells you fairly in depth, what they're good for, and how to get started and all that. The product name, companies that sell the products. There's several out there. Liligo is a big one. Those are the units I have that I'll show you. I think it's called Seed, if I'm not mistaken, that does the station ones. Heltec has a huge number of them, or several different products, and they're very popular. Those are like little experimenter boards. They have access to all the I/O pins on the product and all that sort of thing. Rack is another brand that sells some almost more commercial grade products like repeaters and that sort of thing, with really rugged, heavy duty outdoor cases and stuff that's designed to be more commercial almost. I mean, if you want to set up your own repeater and you want to have it super protected and that sort of thing, Rack is a really good brand. The other really cool thing about these is you can hook up serial data inputs to them. So like say you have a weather sensor or a moisture sensor or water level type thing, you can feed that data into the serial input of the unit and tell it to periodically transmit that data. these are really good for setting up networks of stations that you can use to transmit data back to a central router and pull that data off. And again, as long as the settings are the same for some of the things, and I'll show you which areas they need to be the same. As long as they're the same and the device is set to repeat everything that it hears, then you can get this data transmitted long distances. You can connect them to the internet. The ones I have like this, the ones with the ESP32 chips, have Wi-Fi as well as Bluetooth, and you can connect it to your Wi-Fi, and then you can send all the information to a central server that's set up. Meshtastic has a server that you can they'll gladly let you connect to, and basically you can send information that you hear with your device. You can send it out to the internet, and it can go out to anybody that's connected to the internet, as that is connected to this service as well. So it's very powerful. Let's grab my. So the device I'm talking about, this is one of the ones that is the LilyGo. It's called a T-Beam, and it's about $30, somewhere in that range, $32. It is a transceiver. It does transmit and record. Has a built-in GPS unit. You can put a lithium-ion, one of the 8150 lithium-ion batteries in it. The standard large capacity. I think this one's like a 3,000 milliamp hour. And it'll charge right off the USB port here. And anytime you unplug it from the USB port and turn it on, it'll use the lithium-ion battery. You can also connect it up so that you can charge it with a solar solar cell, or run it from a solar cell and that sort of thing. And there are some of these products that have are solar powered. This one does have a display, so if you had a case for it, oops, it turned on. I don't know if you can see the little screen coming on. Has a little OLED display, and it immediately, after it boots up, it has its firmware that you can choose what data you see on the screen. Like I say, like heading to another node or bearing, or it shows the list of messages. And some of the newer firmware that they're working on, it has like a clock mode and stuff. So there are some, they're constantly changing it. This is a volunteer-driven project, so all the developers are volunteers. Everything's up on GitHub. They have a huge presence there on GitHub. They have groups of people that work on the firmware itself, the web clients, and the apps for like phones. So the really cool thing is, because it has Bluetooth built in, you can connect it to your phone or computer using the Bluetooth connection, and change the configuration and all that sort of thing. Send messages. So you pull up the Meshtastic app on your phone and go to the channel or the node you want to communicate with, type in your message and send it, and anything that is sent back you get to see. So yeah. So I'm just going to very quickly go over what it takes to set one of these up. Basically, I have a unit that's hooked up through a USB cable to my computer, and because it has the ESP32, it's got a built-in serial port. And so I'm going to do most of my stuff here through the serial port. But so we're going to start here with the flasher. So the very simple way to flash the latest firmware onto your device, or older firmware if you'd prefer. If something doesn't work on the firmware you're using and you'd like to go back to the old one, you can do that. And I'm just going to double check. Okay, I'm going to have to adjust the bit rate on my okay, I'm just verifying it's still running at 1080p. For some reason, Twitch kept dropping my stream rate, or my stream size down to 720p, which was just like, what? Because I'm definitely doing 1080p, 60 frames per second. I have an excellent graphics card and CPU, so I know it's not my computer. It's a weird setting in OBS, the streaming software. Anyway, so back to this. Basically, what you do is you come in here and you say, hey, here's my device. And I happen to have a Liligo T-Beam. So we're going to choose that. And then they give you the option of going to which firmware you want to use. Now, the latest stable is generally what you're going to want to pick. Unless you're running into a problem doing something, then you can come up here and choose one of the alphas. Now, I will tell you that if you want to interact with the developers, if you want to report a bug or you're having a problem, and here I'll put this link in the chat as well. That way it's in there. You can download the nightly repositories, and those things are bleeding edge. I mean, they could claw your eyes out, and I'm just saying, you have to download the file and upload it a little bit differently. So you have to figure out which one of these is for your device, So I found the easiest way to do that is just do a Control F and do, like mine is T-Beam. And it's showing 2 instances of that. Oh, this changed since last night. There's that one. Where's the next one? Oh, it's just in the same line. It's just over. So you can download. So here, I'll download the latest one. And then you can unzip it. And you can use that. The weird thing is they name it .zip. So I find you have to go in and rename it and then extract it. And then it'll create a folder with, the absolute bleeding edge firmware. I'll put this link in the chat as well. I came across this because I was trying to report a bug in the Git, and the first thing they asked is the age-old question that everybody hates to hear: do you have the absolute latest version? And it's almost like they wouldn't want to talk to you if you don't have the nightly alpha version on your device. So if you do download, you can come over here and you can click on the little folder icon, And let's go here because I have a new one here. And we can choose the update bin. And this is going to put the absolute latest alpha firmware on my device. We'll give it a try. I may have to go back and install an older version. The next thing you come to, once you click the flash button, is it's going to come up here. It's going to say, hey, what's your baud rate? I found 115.2 to be reliable. You can bump it all the way up to 921.600. Although I think I have my serial port kind of limited. Let's see, where's my serial port here? Yeah, do I have it at 115.2? I mean, you can bump it up to let's see, what are we up to? Anyway. Anyway, you can push it up all the way to 921.600. Then you click update, and you've got to come in here, and you've got to find the serial port that your board's connected to. I happen to know mine's COM3, which is my only serial port right now. You click connect, and it does, and then it pushes the firmware up. First it pushes the package up, and then decompresses it, and then it flashes the device. Okay, and that it took 21 seconds to do that. And then you're done. Now, the one thing you will find is if you come in here and you choose one of the stable betas, and you come in here to flash, it'll give you all the information about bug, changes and whatnot. And then if you continue on, it gives you an option to full erase and install. So what it does is it completely wipes out the device rather than updating it. So now let's see. Go ahead and close that so that it doesn't keep the serial port open. So then what you can do is you can either go to your phone and use their Android or iOS app to configure the device, or you can use the web here. And what you're seeing here is when you open the website, and I'll put that. This is the this is also kind of their test bed web client. So if you're having web client issues, they'll ask you, are you using the test client? And so I've just started using it all the time just in case. You have two ways. The HTTP is not working through the web client right now. There's an error, and I've reported it to them, and they haven't gotten back to me. Like I said, it's a volunteer group, and it may not be a very high priority to them. So right now I'm going to connect to serial. You could try and do Bluetooth, although the problem with Bluetooth is once you flash it, the default setting for it has a random PIN number that the device generates that you have to read off the screen and then type in, how you have to put a number, a key number or a key. When you connect to Bluetooth, oftentimes, ask you to put in some numbers or something. It does a random one of those. And so it's, if you don't have access to the screen, then you can't really see it, and you don't know what the pin is, so you can't connect with Bluetooth. For that reason, I do my initial configuration at least through the web client here. And when you open it up, it jumps immediately to the radio config, which there's a couple of modules. There's the radio config, the module config, and the channel config. The one that you're going to spend most of the time in, most likely, is the radio config and the channel config. So the first thing you'll notice is the device is set to client mode. And that means that it's going to send and receive packets that it sees. You can choose client mute, which means it can only rebroadcast. It can't add its own traffic. You can choose a router, but that's usually only really needed in very special situations where you're dealing with you're actually working with several of these and you want them to report back to a central router. And so there's all, repeater. There's just repeaters where it just sits up there and you have two antennas in and out, and it just basically is set up for long range relaying. And this is good in certain situations, like I say, where you're trying to have a bunch of people connect to it. You can set up repeaters to make sure that you have coverage. There's all kinds of options. There's another option here called TAC. And TAC is a government-written tactical software. It is sits on top of the Meshtastic configuration and operation. And what it is it's software just really designed for tactical situations. You have people with tactical call signs, and you can watch a group of people, because they all have, or their devices have the option, or you have the option of having devices with GPS, that it can relay their information and that sort of thing. It's actually pretty slick. I've tested it out. I won't do it here today because it's a pretty in-depth thing and you have to do it on your phone. Anyway, so there's a lot of options you can choose. If you're first into this and you're just trying to say hello world, client is the one you want, okay? The very next setting that you absolutely have to jump to first, if you're not going to change that, is in the LoRa, whatever you want to call it, which stands for long range. If you click on that tab, when you first get it, it's going to be set to this unset. And this region setting pulls up uses a database of frequency and power settings that are mandated by the government. So like in the US, it's the FCC has requirements that, you have to use these specific frequency bands, and you can't exceed a certain amount of power. And so the first thing you're going to want to do is set it to your region, wherever you are, UK, Japan, US, whatever. And then you have the option to set the hop limit, which is how many different nodes it'll go through before it gets to you. And basically what this is saying is I don't really want to hear, or I don't want to see messages that are more than 3 hops away. You can set that to 7, if you want, and get the absolute all of everything. But they, in the manuals and software settings and stuff, they all say 3 is fine. All the setup guides and that sort of thing. Everybody kind of says 3 hops is really good. You can choose your frequency slot. You can specify it. But the thing is, if you specify it and the other clients that are around you, the other little devices that are around you, aren't also using that exact same channel number, you're not going to talk to them. They're not going to hear you. You're not going to hear them. And then so the other setting that's very important to set is the modem preset. You have a lot of different options here. And what this is talking about is distance and data speed or data packet size. So it's saying, okay, well, I want to shoot a smaller packet a long distance. You have the option of doing long and slow. Long slow, where you do long range, but it sends a longer data packet, and then very long and slow. This is like on its tippy toes, and so it uses a narrow band, a very narrow bandwidth, or excuse me, a very wide bandwidth. So the data rate is a lot slower. So it sends a slower. It tries to fit the data packet in a wider or a longer broadcast, is what I'm trying to say. Broadcast length. If that's the way I understand it. I may be wrong about the definition here, but generally out of the box, most people keep it on long fast. I do know in the San Francisco Bay Area, there's a group of people called Bay Mesh, and they request that you, if you're going to be part of their Bay Mesh network, that you set it to medium slow, and all the devices that work with Bay Mesh are set up for medium slow. I'm going to leave it at long fast because that's the default again. Now, generally, you're not going to have to touch much of anything else in here. And once you set those settings, you're going to come up here and you're going to click Save, and it's going to chew on it a bit and come back and pretend like everything's good. But what you don't know is once it's done uploading the configuration changes to the device, more often than not, it's just going to reboot on you to implement those changes, which is fine. It's just so you're aware. Once you configure these, usually when you click this, excuse me, man, you click the send button to send the configuration over, and once it's done uploading the configuration change, it's going to reboot the device to implement that change. So I'm not going to do it right now. So the interesting thing is, you'll notice, anyway, we'll get into that stuff before I'm still on the config stuff here. You can go in here and you can mess around with the position settings. It does make use of the smart position settings if you want. And, it says only send position when there has been a meaningful change in location, which is generally a good thing to have on. But because this is a static unit, it doesn't move around. I've turned that off. I've also turned off the GPS because I really don't need it to know where it is. You can choose the attributes you want it to send out with your position. The fewer things you have checked, the better, because the more items you have, the longer the data packet, which means more airtime that it's chewing up. And then you can come down here and you can say, okay, how often do you want to send the position out? Right now I have it set for 5 minutes, I believe. 30 minutes. Every 30 minutes. Yeah, because 3600 is an hour. And I have it so every 30 minutes it's just going to say, hey, I'm here at this position. And any device in range can hear it, and their little computer on their device will say, oh, yeah, okay, I heard you. There's a whole lot of other options. You can come in here. You can go to Bluetooth, and this is where you can set your pin number. Right here it's set for fixed pin. By default, it's set for random. Like I said, that's where it shows a random number on the screen of the device, which you then have to use to pair whatever it is you're connecting to your ham radio board. the radio board. Sorry, my brain faded. Anyway, so you can just do some Bluetooth settings here. There's not a lot you can do. If you feel like it, you can regenerate your security key. It goes up to 256-bit. This is your your pre-shared key, or private key, and then you can there's a public key that gets broadcast over the air, and then you have your secret key. And if you need to, somehow it gets transmitted or broadcast, you can just regenerate it. The thing that you need to realize is if you regenerate a new security key, then all the devices that had been talking to you will, until they clear their database, won't know how to talk to you again because your key is off. But eventually, the nodes will get reset, and therefore it'll pick it up. And so I encourage setting it. Generating it, and then not worrying about it. There are a lot of other settings in here. Really don't need to go into. The cool thing about this is I am using the serial port right now, but if you connect over Bluetooth or Wi-Fi to it, you can look at the serial output while it's just sitting there. It dumps all the information it receives and what it's doing through its serial port, so you can monitor it if you want. Anyway, so now that we've got it all set, you click the save button, you let it reboot. The very next thing you're going to wonder is, well, can anybody hear me? Well, hopefully what it's done, and here I'm going to turn this one on. Hopefully what it's done is it's broadcast its position out there, and other units have also broadcast their existence out there. Let's see. Yeah. Anyway, so you can see on the node list, this is a mobile one. This is actually this unit right here, the one with the antenna and the battery. It's not connected to anything. This is this unit. If we go to the, and because it's indoors, it can't get a GPS lock, so it's not transmitting its location. Now, if you have everything set up right, eventually you should start hearing, if there are other Meshtastic units in your area, you should start seeing them pop up on the map. The other setting you can change is the device name, and you have two name options, or two name locations or slots: the long name and the short name. The long name can be, as you can see, 40 characters, and the short name is 4. The short name is what you're going to see like on the maps and stuff. So if you have some tactical excuse me, man. Probably need to get up and move around. Like you can give it like tactical, garage one, or garage one up here and GAR one or something. Team Alpha, you can put Team Alpha up here, and TE or TMAP, or you know what I mean. You can TMA for Team Alpha down here in the short name. But basically, like I said, when you put those in, if another node sees you and they look on their map, the person looks on their map, they're going to see this short name listed. But again, because I don't have a position lock, my mobile unit is not broadcasting its position right now. It did broadcast that it exists, but it's not telling where. Now the cool thing is you can click on there and get some information, and you'll notice it's showing, oh, this is a T-beam. Here's its node number, its Bluetooth hex number, what role it's in, when it was last heard, the hardware, and then you can say, hey, can you tell me your position? And there's a lot of other data that it sends out, and then the client remembers. You can choose to send a message to it. You can do a trace route, which says, hey, how did the information get from you to me? Who did it go through? And that way you can find out, hey, here's what my mesh is looking like, and who's participating. You can make it a favorite. You can set an alarm so that if it does an update or sends a message, it sends an alarm. But yeah, so you see right here, it's showing the short name and then the long name, but this is what shows up on the map. The next big thing that's important is the channels. The channels are kind of like the way you organize who can hear what. There's a primary channel, which is everybody knows the PSK, the pre-shared key. By default, it's always capital AQ equal. I mean, that's the default key. If you change the key, if the other clients or the other devices don't also have that key, then they won't talk. It'll act like, nope, I can't hear you. Generally, you don't mess around with the primary. You just leave it be. If you want to create a private channel, say you have 5 people that you want to be able to communicate, and just those 5 people, you can come in here and generate even up to a 256-bit key that you can then share with the other people. It'll pop up in here, and you can share it with other people, and then they can put it in their configuration and know that that's the encryption key that they need to use to talk on that channel. Otherwise, it'll ignore anybody else, incoming, outgoing. If the settings don't match, if the security key doesn't match, even if the remember the LoRa setting where we chose the modem preset, if those don't match, it won't what am I trying to say? It won't it'll ignore. It won't rebroadcast it. It won't display it, so it won't show the messages. Now, the other thing you have the option in here is if you have a specific channel and you want to send or receive those messages through this, like I said, the MQTT session servers, you can turn those on, and you can say, okay, anything that I hear in my local area, I'm going to send to the MQTT server. And conversely, anything that I hear from the MQTT server that belongs to my local mesh, I'm going to broadcast it. So basically, if somebody across the country sent something into a channel with the same settings and they were connected to MQTT, this should get rebroadcast out to your node, also on the internet, also with those same settings. And that way you can communicate cross country without cell phones and that sort of thing. Now, right now, obviously, it's limited to text. You can't send emojis or smiley, pictures or files or that sort of thing, because right now it's geared to voice. And they just actually did a huge consolidation. Took down half the units. They're in the process of supposedly I'm sorry, my brain is. Anyway, what was I going to say? Anyway, so the channels in the MQTT system are very powerful. If you want to coordinate with people around the country, then you can set up secure channels, and they're encrypted. You can encrypt them, like I said, up to 256-bit. You know, and you know, that's not impossible to crack, but it is. You know, it's going to deter. It's not going to send everything out in the open. Let's see, the other options that this web client, and again, the web client isn't the end-all be-all. It's okay for like basic settings and that sort of thing. If you're going to get more in-depth settings, I would honestly suggest using your cell phone or tablet or cell phone or tablet, and using the Android or iOS app for Meshtastic, which is very robust and it has a lot of different areas on it. Yeah. The other thing you can come in here and do is you can reset the node database, so it wipes out records of anybody it's heard. So if you want to, if for whatever reason you want your message database, you wanted to clear out devices that you haven't heard for a while, you can go ahead and reset the node DB. It actually clears everything out, and then as you hear units connect and speak with you, it automatically adds them. All right, let's see. So let me see if I can connect to my mobile unit using Bluetooth here. So go back to the Meshtastic web. I'm going to do a new connection. We're going to choose Bluetooth. Now I've already paired it. If you bring up a new device or you reload it from scratch, you can factory reset it, where it wipes the configuration out, or it also modifies any change or wipes out any changes made to the board. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this one. We'll see if it connects. Sometimes the Bluetooth is a little finicky. Oh, it should be on. That's the one thing about using the web client too, is it can get a little stuck on leaving ports open and that sort of thing. So sometimes you have to actually even wipe out the browsing history. What I found I can do is I can come into let's see, let me It's interesting it's not showing that window. Well, I was going to try and share my settings with you, but for some reason it's not picking up the Windows. OBS here is not picking up the Windows settings. Interesting. It's only doing web. I'm still playing with OBS software, so I'm gonna get rid of that. I'm gonna add another one. Trying to figure out which is the best. Right now I'll just do my display. I'll grab my. Okay, so now you can see the configuration page. What I've found you need to do is you come over here to Bluetooth, and this is the base station one. We can see if we can add the other one. Yeah, so there it is. There's the, and what? Oh, this one's generating random ones, that's why. That's why you want to set it to fixed pin if you're going to use a pin. Oh, come on. Let's try it again. Like I said, the web, for some reason, the web client can be real finicky connecting. I've seen some threads on people discussing there's something called a heap size. Okay. I want to make sure that, no. So I'm going to cancel this. I'm going to turn my Bluetooth off and on again. Have you tried turning it off and on again? So again, it's asking for the pin. I don't know why it's rejecting them. Unless I'm typing them in wrong every time. I don't think so. I'm going to try resetting this. It's rebooting. I don't know. So it's not like in the firmware. Let me see. I think. Oh, did I bring the cable over? Give me just a second. I'm gonna find. I've got a USB cable I can plug it into, and we can look over the serial. Give me just a sec. There we go. I've disturbed the cat. Anyway, so I'm going to plug it in. All right. So at this point, if we go back into our computer device manager, we now have a COM4. So as you plug it in, it becomes a what am I trying to say? It becomes selectable in all the stuff we're doing here. So if I'm gonna keep things consistent between my mobile and my base station one, I basically kind of have designed this, or got two of them. One so I can have it sit here. I have it connected to a special coax cable and an antenna like this, but it's outside, so it's out. It has a better chance of reaching other. So we're going to choose COM4. We're going to go ahead and update this device to the same firmware. Basically, yeah. And so I just have it sitting there running all the time. Now I'm not doing anything specific with it, but I've been playing around with like putting the mobile one in my car and driving around and seeing how far they can talk and that sort of thing. There is a test mode where you can set it up so it does periodic, or it tests to see how far you can hear each of the two units can hear each other from what kind of distance. Excuse me while I take a sip. For those of you who would normally put in your channel points to tell me to hydrate, I did it for you. Oh, okay. Anyway, so it's done. So we're done flashing this one. We'll go ahead and close this out to close the serial port, because we don't want to leave that open. And then we'll go into the client and we'll connect. Go serial. And I believe the new one's at the bottom. Nope. Wrong. Let's see if I can switch nodes. No, because I don't have two hooked up. So let's see. Connect new node. Let's go serial. We'll pick the top one. So this is the one we just flashed. We'll see if it can talk to it. Looks like it's having a hard time. I'm going to go ahead and close that out. I'm going to go ahead and unplug this, and I'm going to reset it. The joys of playing with non-commercial level things. I mean, there's just so much that these devices are capable of. They've really built in a really huge amount of there we go. So now it's opening up. So it's showing me this is my mobile unit. It's also in client mode. Let's make sure the LoRa, yeah, it's set for US, and it's set for long fast. So now they're both on the same settings. The interesting thing is my mobile unit has shown a bunch of units that the other one's not. I'm wondering if there's something wrong with the transceiver on the one I've got hooked up outside. I may swap them. But here you can see again a list of the nodes that it's heard. And you can see here this one's 3 hops away, 5 hops away. I don't think that any of these are showing on the map. No. None of them are showing on the map, so they haven't actually transmitted their coordinates. Anyway, yeah, see, this is, I want to go to fix. Save that. In these settings, network is where you would turn on the Wi-Fi. You come in here and you can turn on the Wi-Fi. And if you go back here, it says note some devices like ESP32s cannot use both Bluetooth and Wi-Fi at the same time. So you're going to have to pick one. I will say that you cannot use the web client here over Wi-Fi. It can only work through serial or Bluetooth right now. There's a bug with SSL where if you turn on the Wi-Fi connection and you try to connect using this software here, it cannot. It freaks out that it drops the connect, or the device drops a connection with your web or your web browser. I've put in a bug report about that, and I haven't heard. That was about 4 or 5 days ago. Haven't heard anything back from them on it, so I'm not holding my breath that they fix it. So in the meantime, you either have to connect it using your Bluetooth or your phone using Bluetooth, or you can use your phone for Wi-Fi connection. For some reason, it works great with the phone, but not the web client. I think there's an added complexity that you're doing it through a web browser that is enforcing SSL settings. And I think there's a disconnect between either the version they're using or the way it's implemented on the device. It used to be that these devices, they would allow you to upload a web client, and you just go to your web browser and point at the IP address of the device, and it would pull up this web client. Well, that doesn't exist anymore. They've gotten rid of it for some reason. I don't know why. I'm sure somebody could tell you if you wanted to listen to the explanation or ask. But all I know is they said for some reason, for compatibility reasons with the changes in web browsers, I think, like use of SLS or SSL, there was some issues with it. But anyway, I'm going to go here. I'm going to tell this guy I'm going to clear out the node database, because the nodes that are in there, I don't know. They seem weird. I have no clue how they got. It may be that somebody in the area had turned on the MQTT, and this had heard them through the rebroadcast that unit did. That's about the only reason I can think of. That, see, I did the I cleared out the database, and you can see they're all gone now. Anyway, now let's see. It's not seeing my other node because it probably hasn't broadcast. What I am going to do is I'm going to go in here to the messages, and I'm just going to type type a hello world message. And the question is, did my other one receive it? So I'm going to go on my phone and I'm going to pull up my Meshtastic. And I'm going to, unfortunately you can't see this, but what I'm doing is I'm trying to connect to the my base unit. And let's see, that one is, which one? This is... what was this one? I'm drawing a blank on which one this one was. I think this one is... I think the one I want is the... Unfortunately, they don't label. For some reason, it's hard to... Okay, yeah, so it is here. So let's see if the message came through. Let me go to my channel. Oops. I'm just going through some stuff here. I'm just looking to see what the settings are on my doesn't seem to be loading those up. Radio configuration, channels. Maybe because it's getting interference from something, it's not connecting right. Like I say, unfortunately, the Bluetooth is a little problematic. So let me disconnect it. Let me reconnect and see if it's reading the... Yeah, it's reading everything. Interesting. Nah, I've run into this before. The joys of playing with devices. All right, well, the interesting thing is there's a whole ton of messages, or not a whole ton, but there's a bunch of messages on the there's a conversation some people are having. Yeah, so for some reason the channels are disconnected between these two. I don't know why. It's not... I mean, I've got the settings the same, so I don't know why it wouldn't connect. I'll go see if I can pull this up yet. No, it's not letting me. All right, well, I'm not going to sit here and beat a dead horse. I'm going to disconnect this one. Oops. Sorry, Zuzu. I'm trying to use the mouse. If you want to lay here, you can, but the mouse is going to be... My hand's going to be there on the mouse. Sorry. Let's see, did I? Oh, you know what? I need to move that down. just realized that you couldn't see anything on top of, yeah, because I put the full window capture on there, and it's, oops, let's go and turn the display capture off, and we'll just use the window capture. By the way, you can see my dog Joe here. He's snoozing away. Joe is my 9-year-old American Staffordshire Terrier. He was a rescue. He is the most wonderful dog I have ever met. He is friendly with everybody. He just wants to be your friend. Dogs, people, you walk up and say, "Oh, hi," Of course, he does have the ulterior motive of, "Hey, do you have a treat, maybe?" Because some strangers give him treats. I let him give him treats. But he's a super friendly guy. Just chill, mellow. He likes to play, and, he's a dog. He does dog stuff, but he has no aggression in him whatsoever. He's been attacked by other dogs, and he's just like, "Hey man, what are you doing? I don't like that. Stop." Rather than going into the, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna tear your throat out," aggression mode, which he doesn't do. And he's not a guard dog. He's not he's not wary of people being near him or me. So, but he is also deaf. And so, let's see, I'm just gonna drop the font size on this down a little bit. It's not quite so big. But yeah, so he is deaf. He was born that way because he is all white. He's a partial albino. He's got one little teeny tiny spot of fur on one ear. I mean, it's just like his little on-off switch, I call it. But otherwise, his fur is all white, and he has the black spots on his skin that you can see through, but his fur is not colored at all. And so dogs like that have a very high prevalence, and cats have a very high prevalence of either blindness or deafness. He is completely deaf. I mean, you could drop a pan. I mean, he'll feel the vibration, like through the floor and that sort of thing. He feels vibrations in his body, but, if you were to sit there and bang on a pan, he most likely would never hear you. The only thing I've ever really seen him respond to is like fire engines going by when they're doing the meh, meh sound. I mean, not even the siren, just the, that low frequency buzzing alarm thing that they do. Anyway, I did train him to be a service dog. So he goes with me everywhere I go. Doctors, stores, you name it. He can go on any kind of public transportation. He is, like I said, a very mellow, friendly guy. And I've trained him to help me with my disabilities. And he was a rescue. He was a stray out of Modesto, and he was probably, they were guessing 3.5 years old, but I'm pretty sure he was a little younger than that. They always overguess the age, and he's changed physically quite a bit since I got him, or he changed quite a bit physically when I got him. He's aged, but Anyway, he was a stray out of Modesto. He was in the system for about a year and a half. I mean, he's a big guy. He weighs about 85 pounds, so he's not a small dog. And so a large deaf dog is not the first thing on a lot of people's, wish list. He was my first dog. I've never owned a dog before, or caretaked or been a guardian of a dog before. So it was quite an undertaking. We had a bit of a challenge, learning each other, and me getting him to understand what it is I wanted him to do. I made up some sign languages, signs, that I give him. And he still occasionally, either chooses to not respond, or he's, doesn't understand. But for the most part, he's really good about, seeing my hand signals and doing what I'm asking him to do. Plus, when I have him on a harness, a really specific kind of harness, and he's very sensitive to, like if I pull the leash one direction or another, he'll change directions for me, or stop, or whatever, or go. So we've kind of worked out, with the leash, I kind of direct him where I'd like him to go, if I choose to ask him to do that. The other thing he does really well is he greets other people, or he greets people. He'll walk up and he'll look at him like, "Hey, you want to be friends?" And he'll wag his tail, and most often, and let them pet his head, or pet him and scratch him, and that sort of thing. And he's for it. He likes it. He always likes making friends. Anyway, long story short, Joe is my service dog. He's an awesome dog. Curled up here, you probably can't see her because my stream deck's in the way, but I have a cat here who's laying on my lap, and she's a sweet girl. I mean, she tries really hard to be friendly and interact and that sort of thing. She does not want to be picked up. She absolutely freaks out if you pick her up. So I've learned the hard way. You just don't pick her up unless you absolutely have to. Otherwise, you're going to end up bleeding. But she was also a stray. She was living out on the street as a tiny, tiny kitten. My daughter found her cowering in the wheel well of a car right next to a junkyard where two huge guard dogs were barking at her and just scared her to death, and she just couldn't go anywhere because every time she'd move, the dogs would start barking at her, so she'd retreat back to her car wheel well. And it was a rainy night, and it was just a miserable existence for her. So my daughter very calmly, and over, I don't know, it was a period of an hour or whatever, got her out from the car, but she had to throw a blanket over the top of her to kind of stop her and catch her. But she brought her inside, and she was just a little teeny tiny kitten. She was probably 10 weeks old, maybe a little older, but not much. But she became an indoor kitty after that. She's a very sweet cat, or can be. She's very independent, though. But she and I have kind of learned to coexist. She was living with my daughter for a long time, but my daughter housing situation changed, and so she came here to live with me probably about 3-4 years ago, something like that. Anyway, so she's a very, very fun companion. She's not a play cat. She doesn't play with things, except for I buy her these little they look like little strawberries. They're fabric strawberries with a little green feather coming off the top, like where the leaves would be, and she'll play with those. Her mousy mousies, huh? Yeah, you like the mousy mousies. Anyway, so that's why I have the Joe and Zuzu up there. She and Joe sleep in the bed. Sometimes she steals it from him, and Joe does not like it when she gives him like love bites on the leg or whatever. And I don't know if she's doing it to be mean or malicious and say, "Hey, move," or if she's just like, "Hey, Joe, I love you," and Joe's like, "Yeah," and freaks out and leaves the bed and goes find somewhere else to lay down because he doesn't want to be hurt by the cat. Anyway, they get along real well. I mean, they mostly ignore each other, but they'll sleep in the same bed. I mean, it's not like they hate each other. Excuse me. Anyway, so let's see. Back to the Meshtastic stuff. I just was remembering that I had the camera up for Joe down there, and I thought I'd talk about what was going on. The other thing, if you haven't noticed, I do like electronic music, psytrance. I've been listening to that quite a bit lately because it helps my disability. Quite interestingly, that repetitive beat at that speed just absolutely helps my brain not lose focus. Plus, it gives me some energy. I don't know. It's hard to describe, but it's pretty cool. And I discovered that through another streamer, a guy who is just absolutely awesome. A guy named Winky, Winky. He is a terrific streamer. I highly recommend. I've got him in my. You scroll down and look at my my page. I think I've got him linked in there. I watch him whenever I can. I watch Thor Pirate Software a lot. I really like his creativity and his I'll conquer the world if I want to attitude. It's like he's been going through a lot of crap lately over some absolutely crazy drama that happened like 8 months ago, 7 months ago, and people are still just trying to find any reason they can to dump on him and his mods and stuff, which is really sad because all he wants is to help people create stuff, games, art, whatever, food. He doesn't. He's really tries to encourage people to create things, and he's the reason I even tried streaming. The reason I'm sitting here in a reclining chair is because I have some disability stuff going on where I have to keep my feet raised up. Otherwise, I suffer some enjoyable or not enjoyable consequences, and I can't work because I had some other things happen to me. In the stream that I didn't stream for almost 4 hours, I talked about the fact that through my work history, well, I'll start back. When I was a kid, in grade school, I was the classic dyslexic kid in a world that didn't understand what dyslexia was or didn't even know it existed. And so to the world, I was lazy. Always had messages on my report cards of, bright but unmotivated, or smart but, lazy, and, stuff like that, where they noted that I had a high intelligence level, but that I didn't accomplish the education the way they expected. I could figure things out pretty easily, but I had problems with math and spelling. I couldn't memorize anything. Times tables, ugh, it was terrible. Spelling was really next to impossible for me. I was always having poor grades in spelling, but I could read. When was I in I think I was in sixth grade. No, I was in, I don't know, I was like in fourth or fifth grade. And they're like, oh, well, he's reading at an eighth grade level. I had a massive vocabulary, and reading comprehension was really high. I understood what people were writing about, but I couldn't memorize anything. I coined the phrase, it goes in one eye and out the other. I could read it and understand it, but I will not remember it, at least not in a way that, you grill me for information and I can come up with facts like history and stuff like that. So I always struggled with that stuff. And long story short, always struggled with it. The world loved to beat me up about the fact that I had issues with it. Bosses that didn't understand, and, just the whole nine yards. So one of the things that happened to me was, in trying to exist in a world that did not care about my learning disabilities or challenges, I spent an inordinate amount of energy and willpower just gritting my teeth and white knuckling through tasks and whatnot, and I burned out part of my brain. Literally, I mean, it stopped working over, I don't know, a couple months. It just slowly started going away, and then poof. It's like I'd go to work and I'd sit in front of my computer and I'm just like, I know I'm supposed to be working, but I have no clue what I should be doing. And I just sat there kind of in a daze almost. And so I had to go on disability, or I had to go on medical leave, and then I ended up transitioning over to disability, and I'm still dealing with it. It is a crazy world, trying to live without the ability to plan, manage, or organize, and having terrible memory. Those four things most people take way for granted. And I love watching people who have the ability to create. It's just something that I wish I could do so bad. So I like watching people who can create. It's really cool to see people that have that capacity. I wish I were creative. I can manage to squeak some things out, but it's really hard for me, and it's hard to explain. It's really hard to explain to people what it's like to live. It's really hard to explain to people how hard it is to live without that ability. Vacations, I never took vacations at work because I couldn't plan them. I could not plan a vacation to save my life, and when I did, it was, I don't know, it was, the obvious cliche stuff that was, and it wasn't tightly planned or anything. Like I have a daughter, and when she was in, was she in junior high, I think, I took her to Las Vegas, and we spent I forget how many days, several days in Las Vegas, and running around, and she just wanted to go shopping for fashion stuff. And, we went and saw a couple of shows and things, and then another time, and then this was like spring break or summer or something, I took her on a short little cruise, down, like from Los Angeles area down to off the coast of Baja, Mexico, and Catalina and all that stuff. Just took her on a little cruise. But anyway, my point was planning vacations. Couldn't do it. I cannot sit down and think, oh, I want to go to this place. My brain just doesn't do that. It's like there's a lot of really cool places out there, but my brain doesn't work that way. It's not like, oh, I want to go see, such and such a festival, or, blah, 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 blah. I read about things and it's like, oh yeah, that'd be really cool to see. But when it comes time to plan a vacation, I don't remember about that stuff. I don't, anyway, so planning, organizing, managing, and memory. Those are the four things that just absolutely, what little capacity I had for them just disappeared on me. And it's impossible to hold down a job when you can't plan what steps you're going to do for things. You either have to have people micromanage you, or you spend a lot of energy trying to figure out how to do things. And the other thing is, because I can't memorize very well, when I do jobs, when I do work, even if I'm kind of doing the same thing that I've done before, it's very little of it is memorization. It's understanding what it is I'm working with and figuring out how to trace down the problem and solve it. Like a program not running. Oh, okay, well, I got to go look at, I basically have to go through and just figure out what's not working, and then figure out how to change that. And like I said, it's hard for me to memorize. And so the next time I go to do it, I kind of have to do it again. So anyway, my life story. That's why I'm sitting in a reclining chair. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to start streaming. Can't make a lot of friends sitting in a reclining chair. And the other thing is, growing up that way, with the world beating on you because you don't conform, not because you don't want to, but because you can't, social interactions are really hard for me. Connecting with people, making friends, that sort of thing. It's all a complete mystery to me how people do that. I mean, there's not an angry component to what I'm talking about, people should or shouldn't or anything like that. I'm not a judgmental person that way. It's just a matter of I can't, and it'd be really nice to be able to. Just like creating, it'd be really nice if I could do art. It would be really nice if I could program. It'd be really nice if I could do X, Y, and Z. But making friends, I'm a pleasant person. I'm pleasant to people. I help people out all the time, but connecting with people and existing in a space where my brain and body or whatever connect to that person like a friend. It just, my brain absorbs the fact, oh, this is my friend, anyway. Oh, it did go through. Interesting. Okay. Sorry, I got distracted. Squirrel. Anyway, so that's one of the reasons why I want to do streaming. I enjoy interacting with people. If I'm going to do a project, I really prefer doing it with people, other people. I'm really good at researching things. I'm really good at understanding how things work and figuring things out. But for some reason, even in creative endeavors, I'd really prefer to be able to connect with somebody while I'm doing it. I've done photography, I've done poetry, I've done, electronics and computers, and I've built electronic jewelry and stuff, but I don't pursue it because it feels empty to me. It's just like, okay, I did it, and I can't. Anyway, my whole life and psyche story. But anyway, so that's why I'm streaming, and just trying to figure out what to stream about. I'm terrible, not terrible. I'm not good at playing games. I can figure a lot of stuff out, but again, because of the way my brain is, controlling my fingers and memorizing keystrokes and stuff like that is really hard for me. I constantly, like even using a controller, um, my brain doesn't know which finger to tell to do what. So I'm a button masher half the time. But I like, I think video games are really cool. I think there's some fun stuff to do in them. And anyway, so I have some video games, some modern video games, I guess, some kind of obscure ones, from different genres. Yeah, and because I can't memorize either, a lot of the games, where you have to craft and stack items and find things, and like World of Warcraft and that sort of thing, is really hard for me because I can't memorize on this dungeon run you need this chess piece with this blessing with this, all those things. My brain does not remember those details, and so. And then there are people that can do it, like Winky. Oh man, he's a master at World of Warcraft. He loves that game. As a matter of fact, he was one of the first people to play in what they call, oh gosh, I can't even think of the name of it now. Basically, you play a character, and if it dies, hardcore WoW, where you start a character, and if it dies, it wipes out. You lose everything. All its stuff and all the stats and skills and whatever, and you have to start over. He was one of the first players that was really into hardcore WoW. And he knows, oh, well, yeah, if you're going to do this dungeon run, and excuse me, you need to get all these materials, and, he just has all that stuff memorized, and he can talk about it like it's, he's giving a dissertation on it, which I admire in people. Thor, Pirate Software, is really good at that kind of stuff too. He is great at maxing out builds and stuff, finding the little things that combine together to just absolutely maximize, whatever skill or power or whatever it is he's trying to focus on. It's really cool to watch him do that. Another guy that's really good at that is Admiral Baru. He plays a lot of roguelike games, and he just absolutely crushes that kind of stuff. Anyway, so I was just looking for something to stream about. That's why the title is A Nerd Doing Nerd Things. Meshtastic is one of the things I've been playing with lately. If you're interested in communications and that sort of thing, it's a cheap little thing to get into. Like I say, you can get a unit for $30, $35. Get you a really good unit, and you can set it up and see who you can talk to, or you can get your friends to get them, and you can all get the little devices, and you can text at the festivals. That's the other cool thing people have discovered is, like, you go to crowded events, and the cell and Wi-Fi are just absolutely crushed by the amount of people there trying to use cell service and Wi-Fi. Well, if you're using these LoRa 915 megahertz units, they don't use the same frequencies. And so you can, if you're within a reasonable distance of each other, you can send messages back and forth to people or know where they're at. And you don't have to, worry about the Wi-Fi or the cell service. And also, if there's an emergency, the same thing. Don't have to worry about cell service as long as you've got a battery in your unit. you can send messages to other people. So anyway, I'll probably talk about this some more. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to completely wipe out both of these, because for some reason they're not meshing on certain levels, and it's because I've kind of gone back and forth with firmware levels, and it's one of the reasons why I think they're having issues talking to each other. But anyway, I think they're pretty cool. I like them. Like I said, if you go to the Meshtastic and you go to the device list. Let's see. Yeah, like I say, there's a list of devices and brands and stuff, and there's different chipsets. Like the ESP32 is much more versatile, but there's some issues with it. This NRF 52, like they say, is more power efficient, but it doesn't do Wi-Fi. Anyway, so there's all these things here that you can, devices. There's a section down here on hardware. Where it, yeah, so I knew there was a brand here called Seed, Heltec. The Station G2 is a pretty interesting one. Let's see. The Station G2 is a pretty interesting unit. This is the brand I was hoping to find. They have a unit here that I want to get. That's not the Nano. I think it's the Station G2. Is one that I really want to get. Yeah, this is the one, the Station G2. This is a really cool unit. And at some point in the future, I'm thinking of getting one of these. Now they're a little more expensive. This one's like $110. But the cool thing is, you notice on the side, it has better connectors for like sensors and that sort of thing. So like if you want to throw up a field weather station or something, you could throw one up and plug in uses the SparkFun Electronics has the Quick 2 connector or something. But anyway, plus like I say, it has a pretty decent display on it. Actually, it's a little different. It's different than I thought it was. So it is using a little tiny OLED display, but it has more power, and it seems to be a really super efficient unit. Yeah, plus they put in an ultra low noise signal amplifier, so it's much better at hearing devices, or transmissions out in the field. Anyway, these guys are RF engineer gurus, and so it's really designed to be super efficient. So, like I said, that's kind of the one I'm. As a matter of fact, I know I want to save that. Let me see, make sure it saved it. I thought I saved this before. There we go. I'm like, where'd it go? But that's that's a unit and that I would consider getting. But there's a whole bunch of them. So, but they also have ones that are really small. Like they have a little card tracker unit that's just like a little, smaller than a playing card, and you can just put it in something and track it. I mean, it's not. Again, it has transmission limits, but if you're near another unit, it'll rebroadcast that information around. So, yeah, and the other thing it has is this unit is super, efficient and stuff. You can plug a GPS unit, and then it also has the like I said, the quick connectors that you can plug in IC squared, I2C. I can never remember it's a serial device, like you could plug in a sensor of some kind and just plug it right in, and it can feed that information over the broadcast. I2C, yeah, which is a serial. It also has a Grove I2C socket. Anyway, lots of different hardware out there, depending on what you want to use it for. There's some really great little handheld units. There's ones with little keyboards that look like a BlackBerry. So, you just kind of look around, and you can just do a web search on Meshtastic. As a matter of fact, I'll do that right now. There's a whole varied cornucopia of Meshtastic devices with little cases and small little units. Now, again, these little ones are designed to connect to your phone through Bluetooth. And so, if you need to type messages or whatever, you do it through your phone. This is the one I was talking about that looks like a BlackBerry. That's an old looking one. I think this is the current one, the TDEC Plus. It looks like a little BlackBerry. And some of these are kits. Like Rack is really good about making these things that you can stack boards onto, sensors and radios and GPS units, and they just kind of snap into place, and you can kind of Lego your way into the device that you want to, for the specific needs you have. The T-Beam, like I have, is a really good device. The T-Beam Supreme is a little more expensive. And if I were to go for another LilyGo unit, I would get the T-Beam Supreme. So this is one they call the T-Beam Supreme. And the U-Blocks is supposedly the better GPS unit. That's the unit that looks at the satellites and tells you where you are and that sort of thing. Um, that one's a little more expensive. That one's $80 instead of 30, but it's got a rugged plastic thing that fits in cases, and it has better components. Anyway, so that's kind of the world of Meshtastic. They're as versatile as, and they're designed to, for you to pick up and say, okay, well, here's my communication project needs. Okay. My phone dinged, so I know that I got that message on my from my on my so they are talking now. Anyway, excuse me while I stretch a little bit. It's been a long day. Zuzu. Yeah, it's been a long day, and I won't sit still. Anyway, so that's Meshtastic. That's how you update the firmware. I know I had to kind of dig through the documentation and kind of figure it out. The web stuff, the clients were not very intuitive. You come in here they've upgraded it a little bit. It's a little easier. You used to have to look at the word of the device that you wanted and then go scroll through a big long list. But now they've got like pictures, and you can come up here by brand. Oh, I know I have a seed brand. Well, here's all the seed devices. This cap solar node is really cool. It has a solar panel. It has a really good radio. And it's designed to basically sit out and be either a router or, like I say, feed like weather or water level or whatever data you need back to a central location. LilyGo, like I said, is the brand that I have. And they have a bunch of different ones, like the T-Deck Plus. They actually have a little watch one. I don't know what kind of distance that one has, but anyway. This wireless repeater or WizMesh repeater is pretty cool. You hook up two antennas, in and out, and it just does a phenomenal job of relaying info. Like I said, Heltec is the other one, and most of them are like these little boards, development boards, that sort of thing. Electro. Anyway, the world of Meshtastic. Highly recommend it. Yeah, so here's the T-Deck Plus. Like I say, this is the one that looks like a BlackBerry. So it's definitely designed for messaging. I don't remember if it has the ability to hook an external antenna or not. Anyway, I don't think so. It doesn't have a port for it, doesn't seem. Anyway, I think I'll leave it at that. What you doing, Joe? Oh, Zuzu gonna run away. Okay, bye, Zuzu. That's Zuzu leaving there, by the way. The cat-like entity. Yeah, yeah, so oh, got one of those bot messages. I hate those. Anyway, um, I think I'm gonna leave it at that. I've been going for a couple hours, just yapping and yapping and yapping. I'm gonna go ahead and pause my Spotify here. Um, yeah, so it's good to talk. If you have any questions, I do have a Discord server. You're welcome to join it. I don't have a lot of roles in there. I'm new to the Discord world. I don't spend a lot of time in my own server. I mean, I do occasionally look at other people's and stuff. But if you guys want to message me, you can do it that way. If you scroll down, um, my I have probably Discord would be the best way to contact me, or wait till I go live again. I'm still working on all the automation stuff. I know a lot of streamers, they go live and it sends messages and does all that kind of stuff. I'm still learning all that stuff, all the streamer bot connectivity and all that stuff. So I don't really have a lot of fancy things going on. I mean, I do have a few tools that I'm using here, and I'm just kind of looking at the stream stuff now. Anyway, I'm Brett, Googly Eyed Beast, Googly Eyes, whatever you want to call me. And I'll try doing some more nerd stuff streaming. There's a couple other things maybe I can talk about that are interesting that most folks haven't heard about, or and if you have any questions, topics you want to talk about, I'm happy to do it. Like I said, I think I've been in the IT industry. I was in the IT industry for close to 40 years, so I know a lot about computers. I don't know everything. I don't do databases very well, but I've played with Linux. I've used Linux. I've done stuff, in it. Windows. I'm not a Mac person per se. I did used to support it in the companies I worked for. But I tend to kind of shy away from them. Just, they don't work for me. If you like them, all the best of the world to you. Enjoy. I'm not here to tell people what hardware or software they should use. Everybody's going to have their own opinion, or what works best for them. I find that just because I've been using it for so long, and B, it works for customization the way I like it. Windows, but I've used Chromebooks for a long time. I like Chromebooks, and like I say, push comes to shove, I can do a few things in Linux. I've set up web servers, and I've set up not commercial stuff, but just playing around with it myself. I've done a lot of ham radio stuff with Linux. A lot of worked on with another gentleman on setting up a system, an automated install script that set up a messaging system that used ham radio. That was a lot of fun, a lot of hard work, a lot of late hours, and digging through documentation that was crappy and half written and outdated, or just, and finally figuring things out. And then basically it was using like I say, ham radio to transmit data, kind of like what I'm using the Meshtastic for, but a little more powerful, because you could you could connect it to repeaters and stuff, and using the ham radio licensed ham radio airwaves and that sort of thing. So um, anyway, I like a lot of that kind of stuff. Like I say, I used to really enjoy trying to create electronic art, meaning melding electronics and real life objects. And like I got the idea from Adafruit, which is an electronic do it yourself hacker, and not unethical hacker. Just a maker, I guess is a better term, a maker source. A turtle that basically had a LED, RGB LED ring in it, and it basically slowly made little patterns and stuff. And it was a necklace. You put the two ends together and it started up, and had a rechargeable battery and everything. It was pretty cool. But I like dabbling in that kind of stuff. It's one of the reasons I like streaming. I've got a lot of equipment here that, I'm learning to kind of meld together in a complex way, using my Stream Deck and, to automate some things, like I can, if I go to my OBS screen, I can sit here and I can switch between my, my scenes the way I have it, be right back, or no, I'm here, or that sort of stuff, or I can, I can start or stop, OBS, or I can, I can launch my Steam client, and, for games and that sort of thing. So, anyway, I like figuring all that integration stuff out and figuring out how it works and that sort of thing, and figuring out uses. So I like problem solving. So that's me in a nutshell. Yay. Please come back. I encourage people to come in and, talk about this kind of stuff. I think being creative and exploring and learning are awesome things. I think the more we do of that, the better we see our world. And we can, I don't know, it lets us branch out and understand things better. So I hope that everybody has a pleasant day, evening, week, year, month. And until next time, I'm Brett, Googly Eyed Beast. I'm still trying to get Twitch to let me have the name Googly Eyes, but every time I look, they say it's not available. Hopefully they'll make it available one of these days, and I'll grab it. I've been going by Googly Eyes for a long time. As a matter of fact, I'm working on some stuff to kind of brand the channel a little bit, around that, And when you think of Googly Eyes, the thing that I think most people think of is Cookie Monster, and so he's my avatar. So, all right, well, I will talk to you guys soon, and have a pleasant tomorrow. Bye.